Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Co-op Work Permit Information Session. I'm Asuka Nakamura, and I'm one of the International Student Advisors, Immigration Specialists at the International Services for Students Office at SFU. I will be the presenter for this session today. I would like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that SFU is located on unceded Coast Salish territory, the traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Coquitlam, and Kazi nations. And on this slide, you will see the brief outline of the topics that we will go through in our presentation today. I will begin with a short introduction of the services and programs that our ISS office provides. Then I will talk about what is a co-op work permit, the eligibility criteria, then the key immigration updates related to co-op work permits. After that, I will dive into more details about the application process and the required documents. I'll take the rest of our time today to answer your questions during the Q&A session. And thank you for those who submitted questions prior to this session. I will try to answer your questions during the presentation, and I'll also make sure to leave plenty of time for the Q&A period. I would also like to draw your attention to the disclaimer at the bottom of each slide. Due to the evolving nature of the COVID-19, we have witnessed many changes taking place very rapidly during the past 2.5 years. So please note that the information that we share today is current to the best of our knowledge as of today, so October 13th, 2022. Also, the information we're providing today is purely from the immigration perspective. If you have any questions, or if you'd like to know more about SFU's co-op programs or the steps to take to apply for co-op terms, please contact your department's co-op coordinator directly. So at the ISS office, we offer a range of services to help support your transition to SFU as an international student. We have 5 immigration specialists who are licensed to provide immigration advice and 2 non-immigration advisors who are specialized in programs and settlement. Our international student advisors offer non-academic advising services ranging from medical insurance and healthcare system in Canada to immigration information services. We also provide transition support and intercultural programs. We are happy to answer your questions related to Canadian immigration documents, such as how to apply or extend your study permits, temporary resident visas, or work permits. We also advise on the enrollment requirements and conditions that you must comply with as a study permit holder. Since our areas of expertise lie mainly in visas and study and work permits for students, our office has limited knowledge on permanent residence. If you'd like to learn more about permanent residence or PR applications, we have a great handout available on our instruction guides page and a recording of our previous workshop on PR on our video resources page. If you have questions about PR applications, we can always direct you to the appropriate government websites and provide general information as well. The ISS office also includes our study abroad team who coordinate international exchange programs and field schools. So in the next slide, I'll talk about how you can connect with us. If you're looking to connect with an international student advisor for questions, you can reach us in a number of ways. While our main office is located at the Burnaby campus, we also have advising option and presence for Surrey and Vancouver campuses too. For the Surrey campus, we have a designated advisor And for Vancouver campus, we have an advisor who's on campus once a week. We're offering advising through in-person and virtual methods, including email, phone, live chat, which is an online messaging system, and also drop-in, or booked appointments, which we offer via Zoom as well. Another great resource, which I would strongly encourage you to access when you have questions, is our website, where you can find the answers to most common questions. The website includes instruction guides on how to apply for or extend your immigration documents, information on work eligibility, medical insurance, and basically every topic that I mentioned earlier. These are easily accessible on our website, so we always recommend our self-guided resources as a first step to get your questions answered. So that's us and what we do. Now let's move on to the topic of a co-op work permit and its eligibility criteria. All right, so I would like to start off by discussing what is considered a co-op work and when you need a co-op work permit. As an international student in Canada, you must have a proper work authorization to work in Canada. A co-op work permit is required for students to pursue paid or unpaid work as part of their SFU program. So to qualify for a work permit, you must either be accepted into a co-op program at SFU or you're enrolled in a program which an internship is mandatory. In other words, if you are in an SFU co-op or internship program, you will need to apply for a co-op work permit in order to participate in your required co-op work terms. So to find out whether you have a mandatory co-op as part of your program, please check the program information section of the letter of acceptance. And please remember that your co-op terms cannot be more than 50% of your study program, and they also have to be an essential part of your program. You can only use your co-op work permit for co-op practicum or internship work that is officially approved by your co-op office. So for example, if you are currently working in a position as an intern, but it is not approved by your co-op office as a co-op placement, then you cannot use your co-op work permit for that employment. In this case, you may be eligible to work under your study permits on or off-campus work authorization if you meet the specific requirements. We'll talk more about the working hours and work authorizations in the next few slides. Another thing I'd like to mention is that if you are considering taking a term off or enrolling part-time, please visit our webpage on enrollment requirements for international students or contact us regarding the potential impact on your immigration status and work eligibility. Okay, so on this slide, you can see the example of what a co-op work permit looks like. As you may be able to see, the permit looks very similar to any other types of work permits. For this reason, when you receive your co-op work permit, we recommend that you check each section on the permit to make sure that all the information is correct. And these are the things to keep in mind when you receive your permit. So first of all, the expiry date of your co-op work permit would typically match your study permit's expiry date. If your co-op term goes beyond the expiry date of your co-op work permit, please make sure to extend your co-op work permit when you extend your study permit. The second point is that, as you can see on this sample co-op work permit, normally SFU is listed as the employer. So please note that this does not mean SFU is your employer or that you can only work on an SFU campus for your co-op terms. This actually means that you can work for any employer that is approved by SFU for your co-op placement. If another post-secondary institution is listed as the employer on your work permit, then you cannot start your co-op term using that work permit. This could happen to students who had a study permit that was issued with the previous institution that they attended before joining SFU. If this is the case, then you cannot start with your co-op work until you have your co-op work permit reissued with SFU as the employer. So please contact us for guidance on how you can correct your work permit. And if you have changed schools or transferred to SFU from another DLI, which stands for Designated Learning Institution in Canada, you must complete the DLI transfer process. If a specific location or occupation is listed only in the additional information section, this is for reference only. And you may work in any location or occupation as long as you're enrolled at SFU. And lastly, you might see some additional conditions printed in the conditions section, such as restrictions to the type of work that you can do. For example, you may not be allowed to work in the medical field or work with young children if you have not had an immigration medical exam performed by a panel physician. So we'll talk about the immigration medical exam in the later slide. And if you have any questions about the conditions or the restrictions to your occupation and location, please contact us for guidance. All right, next we will discuss a few immigration updates regarding co-op work permits. During the past 2.5 years, Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, or IRCC, has made a number of immigration policy changes, updates, and temporary measures. And as I mentioned earlier, please note that the information that we are sharing with you today is current as of today. While the majority of you are currently in Canada, if you are outside Canada and are seeking to participate in a co-op work outside Canada, you may do so even without having a valid co-op work permit. If both SFU's co-op coordinator and your employer agree, you may begin working remotely for an employer in Canada while being in your home country. You may also work for a company in your home country as well. And please note that there may be other non-immigration considerations to be taken into account regarding co-op placements abroad, such as international payrolls, work safety requirements, and taxation, so on. IRCC has also introduced a facilitative measure which allows students in Canada who have submitted a co-op work permit application to begin their co-op work under the on and off campus work provisions of their study permit. What this means is that if you join an SFU co-op program and your co-op work permit is still processing, you will be eligible to begin your co-op work using your study permit's work authorization during that waiting period. You must meet IRCC's work eligibility requirements for that type of work, and for any reasons, if the co-op work permit was refused, then you must stop your co-op work immediately. If your study permit has the restrictions to the occupations, then you will not be eligible to work in certain occupations, even if you meet all the other requirements. In regards to this facilitative measure, as many of you might be aware, on October 7th last week, IRCC announced the temporary lift of the 20-hour per week limit on the number of working hours. And eligible international students will be allowed to work more than 20 hours a week during an academic session. From November 15th this year until December 31st, 2023, you may be permitted to work off campus on a full-time basis under your study permit conditions if you meet the off-campus work eligibility. So this means that until November 14th this year, you will still be restricted to working 20 hours per week during an academic session and working full-time during the regularly scheduled breaks. For undergraduate students, spring and fall terms are considered academic sessions for immigration purposes. And for graduate students, all 3 terms, are considered regular academic sessions. Again, please remember that as a co-op student, you will still need to apply for a co-op work permit even after November 14th if you are participating in a co-op program at SFU. Another COVID-19 immigration update regarding the co-op work permit is the temporary exemption for in-Canada applicants to submit biometrics enrollment for their co-op work permit application. On July 15th, 2020, IRCC has implemented a public policy on biometrics collection exemption for temporary residence applicants from within Canada. This policy is in effect until further notice. So if you're applying for a co-op work permit within Canada, you are exempt from the biometrics enrollment requirement. Therefore, as long as the biometrics exemption is still in effect, you don't have to pay the 85 biometrics fee, even if the system asks you to pay for it. For outside Canada applicants, the biometrics enrollment is still in force. And please note that this biometrics enrollment is different from the medical exam requirement. Okay, let's discuss details of the co-op work permit application process. Generally speaking, if you are currently in Canada, you can apply for a co-op work permit within Canada after you have been accepted to a co-op program. In support of a co-op work permit application, you must have a co-op letter issued by your co-op office confirming your acceptance into the SFU co-op program. If your study permit will expire in the next 3 to 4 months, you may apply for both your study permit and co-op work permit at the same time in the same application package. If you are extending your study permit and requesting a co-op work permit in the same application, you don't need to fill out the application form for a co-op work permit. Since the co-op work permit application is free, if you are applying for a co-op work permit with your study permit extension, you only need to pay for the study permit extension fees. Please remember that you must be physically in Canada at the time of your application in order to be eligible to extend your study permit within Canada. The current estimated processing time for the co-op work permit application from inside Canada is 168 days, which is about 5.5 months. Since the processing time listed on the IRCC's website is not always accurate, we do recommend that you apply for a co-op work permit as soon as you receive a co-op letter from your co-op coordinator, or at least 6 months before you intend to start your co-op term. As I mentioned earlier in this presentation, since the information that we are providing today is purely from the immigration perspective, please again speak with your co-op coordinator to confirm the application process for a co-op program and what document you need in order to start seeking co-op positions. If you apply for your co-op work permit within Canada and once it's approved, you will receive a letter through your MyCIC account with other detailed information such as the document number and work permit expiry date. This is known as the work permit approval letter. The physical work permit will be sent to you by mail to the Canadian mailing address that you have provided in the application form. So please make sure that you provide the complete and accurate mailing address for your application. If you're currently outside Canada, and if you haven't applied for your study permit, you cannot submit a co-op work permit application separately from a study permit application. If you need a co-op work permit, and if you are outside Canada, you must apply for it along with the study permit application made outside Canada. Therefore, if you only need to apply for a co-op work permit and you are currently outside Canada, then you would have to return to Canada and apply for your co-op work permit in Canada. And this is the list of required documents for a co-op work permit application. Please note that this is a specific list for an online application for a co-op work permit made inside Canada. If you are applying for a study permit extension and requesting a co-op work permit in the same application, your list will look different. And we'll quickly review the application form IMM 5710 later. And we've already talked about the co-op letter, which is issued by the SFU co-op coordinator. For the scanned copies of passport and a digital photo, the requirements are the same for a study permit. The copies of your passport must clearly show the page of your birthday and country of origin and any pages with stamps, visas, or markings. The digital photo must meet the photo specifications. I'll talk about the immigration medical exam in the later slide. So let's go through the application process together. Right, so first of all, you need to complete an online questionnaire. It's called Come to Canada Wizard. And this is to find out if you are eligible to apply, and it will generate a personalized document checklist for your application. If you are applying only for a co-op work permit, please make sure that you answer to the first question. What would you like to do in Canada is work, not study. Okay, and these are the questions that you will be answering in the questionnaire. Since you need to be careful answering these questions in order to generate the appropriate document checklist for your situation, our office also has created a very useful instruction guide for SFU students who are applying specifically for a co-op work permit. So please take advantage of the instruction guide, which can be found on the instruction guides page on our website. Once you answer all the questions, a customized document checklist will appear, and it will look like this on the right-hand side. Let's take a look at the application form IMM 5710, application to change conditions, extend my stay, or remain in Canada as a worker. This is the application form you'll need to fill out when applying only for a co-op work permit from inside Canada. If you're applying for a study permit extension and co-op work permit at the same time, you will not need to fill out this form, IMM 5710, but instead you will be filling out IMM 5709, which is for a study permit extension. Along with our instruction guide, IRCC also has a detailed webpage called Guide 5580, Applying for a Work Permit, Student Guide Online Application. This guide explains how to apply for a work permit, and it has detailed explanations of how to answer each question on this form, IMM 5710. If you are applying online, you don't need to sign or date the application form. Once you have typed all required sections of the form, you can click Validate to validate the form. If the form has been completed correctly, you will then see a series of barcodes on the last page. And when you get the barcodes, you can save and upload it to your MyCIC account. Since you do not need a confirmed co-op placement or job offer to apply for a co-op work permit, the name of employer should be Simon Fraser University. If you are not sure about how to answer some questions on the application form, please refer to our instruction guide or contact us for assistance. Okay, let's talk about immigration medical exam. As required by the immigration regulations, you will be required to undergo an immigration medical exam if you have been living outside Canada in a designated country for more than 6 months within the past 12 months prior to your application. or if you like to work in a job that will bring you into close contact with people, such as workers in healthcare settings or working with young children. The immigration medical exam is done by a panel physician that is authorized and appointed by IRCC, and the medical exam result is valid for 12 months. If you applied for a co-op work permit without having a valid immigration medical exam, then your work permit will be issued with the restrictions or conditions that prevent you from working in those protected occupations. To avoid any delays in application process, it is strongly recommended that students do the upfront medical exam. And this is to complete a medical exam before submitting your co-op work permit application. Your medical exam result will be submitted to IRCC directly. So please make sure to ask for a copy of medical exam report, which is called e-medical, and submit it with your application. We also recommend that you include a brief letter of explanation in your application to explain the reason why you have undergone an immigration medical exam and request the co-op work permit to be issued without the work restrictions. And we're almost at the end of the presentation. One important step before starting your co-op work permit is to apply for a social insurance number, which is also known as a SIN. In order to work in Canada, you will require a valid SIN to receive income and access government programs and benefits. It's a 9-digit number issued by Service Canada. It comes in a paper format, which is the confirmation of SIN letter. In order to apply for a SIN, you need to either a work permit or a study permit with conditions stating that you may work or may accept employment. If you apply online, you will receive a letter by mail with your SIN within about 15 business days from the date your application was received. Once you have applied for your SIN, you may begin working at an insured employment before you receive your SIN. Since your SIN expires on the date provided on your study permit or work permit, when your linked study or work permit expires, you need to submit your new permit to update the expiry date of your SIN. I know that we have covered a lot of information today. And once again, I'd like to remind you all that we have great resources that will help you with the application process and answer your questions. Our website includes instruction guides on how to apply for or extend your immigration documents, information on work eligibility, medical insurance, and all the topics that I mentioned earlier. These are easily accessible on our website, so we always recommend our self-guided resources as a first step to get your questions answered. And this will be the end of our presentation. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here today, and I hope you found the information helpful. If you'd like to connect with an international student advisor for any questions you may have, please again reach out to us. And we will end the recording here.